Welcome to Santa's MLS Tech Workshops, where we'll be going over ways on how to better your business. In this tutorial, Katie Gleboff will be going over the resources available to users when creating a presentation report using the refined value and comparative analysis features.
The next thing that I want to talk about when you're researching is, of course, pricing that property. And there's a couple of pricing tools that I want to touch base on. And that's going to be our refining of our value, as well as creating that comp analysis. So when you're looking at RPR, again, we provide you with that RVM tool. I have, again, that transparency, that disclosure here where you can hover over that information icon. And this is going to talk about our RVM and how we generate that value. We're going to date and timestamp that. So the last time this property was analyzed for an estimate of the property's value was November 11th, 2020, right? So that was just only a couple, I had to look at my watch. I can't believe we're in December already. So that is, that's looking at the property's value. So around the middle of the month, we're going to, again, assess that property's value. Now, when we talk about our pricing tools, I don't want to confuse the RVM with creating a CMA. So remember, when you're looking at the estimate of a property's value, this is based off of an algorithm, a mathematical algorithm based off of property characteristics and sales trends. You don't go in, you don't handpick properties, it's just algorithms saying, hey, we're looking at this property and we think this is what buyers would purchase the property for. Essentially, it's kind of like the sticker price, right? Right underneath this RVM value, we have a link here that says view details. And this is just going to give you a little bit of insight. So it's going to give you that RVM value, and it's going to give you the range. And why I like the RVM range, when you look at an estimate of property value, right? One of the largest impacts that agents have with that is that no one's physically going to look at the property, right? It's not a CMA. All of those assumptions are kind of flittering overhead like butterflies. Well, what if the property has a new kitchen, or what if the property doesn't have a new kitchen, or what if this happens, or what if that happens, or what if it's distressed, or what if it's not distressed? No one actually goes and looks at the property, right? So with an RVM or an AVM, it's assumed that all properties are in average condition, and we know that's not always the case. So we do provide you with a range, and that simply means, hey, if all of these properties are similar to one another as far as updates and the quality of those updates, then we could assume this property is in average condition and the value is going to be right around $755,000. If it's below average, it could be lower. If it's above average, it could be higher. And then we come in and we give you a sampling of the property. So you, as the agent, you can come in and visually see and say, hey, yes, all of these, they're all close together. They're all similar. They don't have the updates. They do have the updates. So you can get an idea of where the pricing would be within that spectrum. You're also going to see a confidence score. And this confidence score, again, has that little information icon, so you can hover over that. And what that's telling you is we use multiple algorithms to determine this value. And the closer our model's results are, the stronger our confidence score is, right? And then I do have a question out there. On the AVM details sheet, how recent are the sold properties? You're actually going to see that sold date right here disclosed on this sheet. Okay, so you're going to know the sold date of those properties. You can print this page out. What I actually like to do is print this page out. Let me go ahead and do my right click. I'm going to print. And instead of printing it to a paper copy, I save it as a PDF, right? And I'm going to go ahead save as the PDF. I'm going to go ahead and open it in my PDF preview. Chrome updated it on me, so I want to go ahead and do a file. I'm going to save it right on my desktop. And this is my Myrtle Street RVM 2448. So I'm going to go ahead and save that AVM. I want to save it right on my desktop. So I have that, and then I actually have the ability to incorporate this into my report. Oh, hang on. Let me go ahead and resume my share. So go ahead. I saved it as a PDF. I'm going to close out of it. And then that's kind of on a back burner. We'll get to that in just a minute. So you do have that information. Also here, you do get that month over month, and you get that year over year. Then you have the ability to come in and refine that value. And there's multiple ways you can refine the value, right? One way you can refine the value is by adjusting the basic facts. And the reason why you can do that, part of RPR's algorithm in determining the property's value is by the value of bundled property characteristics. Now, we pull that information in from public records. So if there's an error or omission, maybe this property has a half bath that we neglected to count. So we can come in and apply those changes. And if we change that half bath counter, it's going to add just under $60,000 in value to the property's value. So if there is an error or omission from public record, you can update that information, and it's going to change that value on the fly. You also have the ability to refine the value based on home improvements. Again, this information, if you hover over that information icon as a trainer, I love these because all the information that you need is right under those information icons. So you can come in and see that we use a data provider by the name of Hanley Wood. They're a national leader in new construction and housing redevelopment market data. So they provide us with the home improvements as well as the depreciation. It's done annually and at a regional level. So you'll see we have a pick list of options. You can add attic insulation, bedroom additions, deck additions. Maybe they did a mid-range kitchen remodel, and they remodeled that kitchen back in March of 2018, and it cost them $20,000. You can go in and add that information. It will depreciate over time, but it's going to add value to the property. So you can refine the value based on home improvements that were done to the property. And you can refine the value based on needed improvements as well. So maybe there's a broken window that needs to be fixed, and you're requesting that they have that fixed before they list their property, and a new window costs $1,000. So you can depreciate the home based off of that needed improvement as well. You can play with this to see what those numbers would be. You always have the ability to restore that original result if you want to erase it, but you can come in and add those home improvements. If it's a unique improvement and you don't see it on this list, at the very bottom, there is an other where you can type it in yourself. So just get the information from the homeowner, what the improvement was, the day they completed it, and what they paid for it. And you can add an improvement on the fly as well. When we scroll to the lower portion of this page, you're going to see that you can refine the value based on local home and market conditions. And this is what I feel is one of the most powerful drivers in the RPR platform. You can take a look at all of those things that we've absorbed, even just looking at those few layers of information, right? Looking at the imagery, looking at the flood data, looking at the property characteristics, looking at the heat maps for those market trends. what are those local market conditions right now? If you have high inventory and your days on market's creeping up, maybe you're coming into December, so your pool of buyers is dropping until after the first of the year. You're in a little bit of a tougher market. Maybe you're not seeing that in Hawaii, and you're having a lot of people now come to the island. They're looking for their little getaway property. So that may be a price driver with the sale of the property. So you're just using this to kind of talk about what those local market conditions are and how they're affecting the market. How is the home exterior condition? Is it relative to comparable properties? Is that curb appeal a little bit nicer, or is it a little bit worse? So you're just using these sliding scales. Home interior condition, the lot size, the view. I'm sure that could be a huge price predictor in your market. Privacy, all of those are kind of like that buyer demand, those wants, that quality that makes every property unique, and that's going to refine that property's value. And then ultimately, what you want to be able to do within your pricing is back this up by creating that comp analysis. So you have that tool which allows you to have that discussion about the home's market value, and then you can come in and run a comparative market analysis to back this information up. This is where you're going in, you're identifying your subject property, you're hand picking comps, and you're setting that pricing. We actually have two CMAs within RPR. We have a more detailed sales comparison analysis, which is going to yield a valuation workbook. This one is a little more detailed when you generate your comparable properties and make adjustments. If you do adjustments, you're going to use a monetary amount. We're going to cover the comparative analysis, which is a little bit quicker. It's an easier workflow. But after this presentation, if you have any questions on the difference between the two, we have a little video right here that talks about it. They're both done in a wizard format, walks you through step by step. It's 4 steps. Step number 1 is confirming those home facts for the property, the beds, the baths, the lot size, square footage. If you want to add additional features for the property, you can add those additional features. You're going to find comps. This is really where you see a streamlining of that property information come in, because RPR is going to pull any closed sales transaction through public record, as well as any MLS sold transactions. So you're not going to miss any recorded sale. You can add a property by listing address if there's a property that you want to add as a comparable, or you can just search an area for several properties and pick the ones that you want to use. Your subject property is always going to be at the top. RPR is going to come in and set some of those search factors for you. So if you're looking at a single family property, it's going to identify single family comps. It's going to match property type to property type. You can do a CMA for any property type that's available within the RPR platform. It's going to pull sold properties, but it's also going to pull in any active inventory as well. But that's at the bottom of the list, so it doesn't really interfere with those solds. And then something I also want to point out, because of your market, we do have a keyword feature here. So if your subject property does have that unique feature and you want to be sure that your comparable properties has that unique feature, maybe it's a property that has stables. You can go ahead and add stables. Maybe it has an extra garage. Maybe it has a pool. So you want all comparable properties to have a pool. You can go ahead and add that in the keyword, and RPR will look through all of those data fields to identify comparable properties that have that same feature. You can do sold date based off of a pick list, whether it's the last 18, 12, 6, 3, last month, last week. You can also do a date range if you wanted to throw calendar dates in there. And then you're going to get that differential on the beds, the bathrooms, the living area, the square footage. You can tighten these fields up if you want to tighten these fields up. You can include things like lot size, price range, price per square foot in your built as well. And then as far as where your comparable properties are located, just hit that search button on the bottom, and any comp within our map view is going to go ahead and pop up. Now you can come in and say, hey, I don't really like this. I like to know that all of my comparable properties are within a half mile. I can come in and do a radius search if I want to do a radius search. Maybe I want to see if any comparable properties are actually in the neighborhood that this house is in. I can go ahead and pull up comparable properties that way as well. So you do have the ability to use the geography drop downs, or you can just zoom in and zoom out from your map view. So we can come in here and start picking properties that we want to use as part of our comparison market analysis. If we want more information on a comparable property, just click more details, and it's going to open up that full summary page. So you get all the information that you need to do that research for that potential comparable property. If you're not comfortable picking your comps from within your map view, you can scroll down below and pick your comparables from your list view. And you can sort by address, proximity, days on market, sold date, amount, square footage, living area, beds, baths. You can come in, pick the comparable property, select it to add it to your comps, and then you're good to go. Now, when you're picking your comps, you will see this little highlight for comparable properties that were used in the RVM. That's really just for your knowledge. The RVM does not impact the comparable sales price. It's solely based off of the comparable properties that you select. I'm going to go ahead and update my evaluation now that I have my comparable properties. And I'm going to go ahead and make adjustments. Now, there's some aesthetics that I can do. If I want to enlarge my photos, I can enlarge my photos. If I want to change the order of my comparable properties, I can change the sort order as well. And then we're just going to come in and rate our comps compared to our subject property, excluding square footage. So you're just coming in saying, hey, this property is a little worse, or this property is a little bit better. So just like we saw with our RVM sliders, you're going to have those sliders as well. You're going to see how that impacts your subject property. If it raises the value or lowers the value, that lowered price is going to be in red. That positive adjustment is going to be in black. You're going to get your average adjusted result under your subject property. And this is really for example purposes only. You do have a section for notes. You can keep these private if you want to yourself. You just uncheck that box. But keeping that box checked is going to make these client or customer friendly notes. Okay. And then you're going to go ahead and update your evaluation and close. You're going to get your pricing. You can edit this. So if you want to go ahead and put your low price in, if you want to put your high price in, okay, you can enter that information. That way you can discuss that with the homeowner as you're coming to a recommended price. And then you can go ahead and create that seller's report. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create report.